the dollar. It goes down in value. That is what's happening today. And then we had a thing called Huey 2. $600 billion injected into the economy out of nowhere. Now, how high are prices right now? Too high. Well, let me ask you this. The federal government says that the official price increase of what we call inflation is 2%. How many of you believe it's 2%? When you go to the clothing store, when you go to the market, whatever you go to, is it 2%? How many think it's 4%? How many would say it's 6? How many think it's 8? How many think it's 10? Private economists say it's between 8 to 10% and growing. 8 and 10% growing. You may remember back, some of you will remember that, not all of you. Some of you may remember back in the 70s, where you would go to the store and you had to stock up because you know the next time you went to the store, prices would be rising. We're getting into that cycle again. And you know who is hurt by this? The lowest paid people, workers there is, the working poor. You know who's hurt by this? Seniors on Social Security. You know who's hurt by this? Those people who are trying to make it day by day, and they barely squeak by, and yet prices keep rising. What it is, it's an immoral tax. It's an immoral tax. It's the most wicked tax of all because you don't see where it's coming from. You know, my wife made it. Hi, Shelley. My wife and I, after this tonight, are going to get something to eat. Yay. And I got to tell you, I know whatever restaurant I go to here, next month, the prices will be higher. Because restaurants are now being affected where they have to start raising prices. Every time you go, whether it's a fast food or a nice exclusive place, you're going to have higher prices. And you know what? They have to. But in a recession, you can't raise prices. We're in a recession, you can't raise prices. When you raise prices in a recession, you lose business. So they keep losing their profit margin, and yet they can't survive at this rate. Our economy is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's part of this money supply. So what we have to do is we have to get the Federal Reserve System, something most people don't even know about, under control. And whether it be with an audit, with control, with being able to put the brakes on the fiscal and monetary irresponsibility of a government that has gone out of control in economics, through economic illiteracy. And we've got to stop this national debt crisis because it's killing jobs. There's 1.9 million people have been out of work in the last few years. We've got an unemployment rate of over 9%. We have an unemployment rate of about 12% in this district. We have in Wilmington and other areas 25 or 30%. And these are the official records, but you know what? You and I know a lot of people have given up looking for work. And a lot of people have taken part-time jobs. And they're not counted in these statistics. And our unemployment has really been high. And so we, right now, are the 49th worst state in the nation for unemployment. You know which state has 40% of all job growth right now? Texas. Because they have the lowest taxes, the lowest regulations, the best place for a business to grow. And then you look at all the states that are adding employment, Florida and the rest, It's because of their economic policies. You see, economic policy has consequences. Now, what is happening is wages, real wages, because of inflation is declining. I mean, you get down to it. When prices are rising, I don't care who you are, your wages are declining. If you got a savings account, you're losing money. If you got an investment that's not going over 10%, you're losing money. Now, what happens is when government overspends, wasteful government spending sucks money out of the private sector, and it gives it to government that might create a few government jobs, but they don't have the multiplier effect of creating wealth. That's what's great about the free enterprise system. An idea out of nothing can create wealth. An entrepreneur, a small business owner can come in with an idea and get 5 jobs, 10 jobs, 100 jobs. They can grow their business. But that doesn't happen with government. Instead, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, which is the engine of our economy, has less money and less certainty and less ability. There's a direct correlation. And so it destroys entrepreneurship, innovation, and incentive. And you take a look at the unemployment. You know, from 7.3 in 2009, 25% increase. The national debt's gone up 35%. So what we have to do is we got to take a look at cutting. Now, one of the areas that you probably have got nailings on has to do with the issue of Medicare. And so let me just tell you a little bit about Medicare. In the next 10 to 15 years, seniors will not get Medicare. The next 10, 15 years, young people won't have a future with Medicare because it's on a trajectory of going bankrupt. Something has to be done. Any economist, any truthful politician will tell you, you cannot ignore the crisis. But what can be done? Well, first of all, we've got to do several key things. And this is my pledge. One, for anybody 55 and over, no changes to Medicare whatsoever. A promise and a pledge and an agreement we've made. There's no compromise. You have to continue to get the benefits that have been promised. Now, my opponent has lied about my position on Medicare, as she has lied about my position on every other issue. It's beyond disgusting how she has twisted my words and twisted my statements. You know, she's attacked my family. She has attacked my business. She has, I don't know if you've got the mailer here. I've got this mailer which she says, you know, wealthy businessman. And she shows a picture of my house and my yacht. Now listen, guys, it's a beautiful, beautiful $60 million house on the ocean with this gorgeous yacht. Probably in Florida. And everybody getting this, she's trying to make them think that's my house and my yacht. I live in a ranch house built in 1953 with the typical small bedrooms in addition. Now, I love my house, but it's not a mansion. And I don't have a yacht, and I can't afford it. And this is the same thing with this Medicare. Medicare for seniors, I will fight. In fact, I just won the award from the 60 Plus Association as a, what is it, Asher, the Freedom Fighter Award for seniors? Something like that. And Pat Boone goes, you know, he's a hero of the year for this. But the fact is, we've got to save it for seniors. Second of all, if anybody is on Medicare, you know one thing that's happening with Medicare, and the doctors are leaving. And the ability to find doctors is decreasing. We have to save Medicare by giving the doctors incentive and reason to stay in the system. The third thing is, Obamacare takes $500 billion out of Medicare. It's going to accelerate the bankruptcy. And we got to be able to stop that. And the fourth thing is that we've got to be able to change this so it's not economically impossible to be able to have a viable Medicare system. And the way you do that is to create more competition. And there's all kinds of plans talking about for those under 55 that there will be some changes. And so something has to be done with changes under 55. Then we can save money. But if we don't, it's going to help push our economy over the cliff, and seniors and young people will get nothing. So we've got to be able to make those changes. The second step is we have to be able to cut the overspend, the wasteful spending. If you look at the budget deficits from 2000 to 2005, 1.8 trillion was the budget, 350 billion annually. That was irresponsible of the Republicans, and then it became irresponsible of the Democrats. You know, the Republicans and the Democrats have both messed things up. And what we have to have is somebody who says, when something is wrong, you gotta right it. And this is wrong. 2009 to 2011, it spiked from 1.8 trillion to $2.9 trillion to $3.8 trillion. Let me ask you, 3.8 trillion versus 1.8 trillion. Do you have that much better government today? Are we better off with that huge, huge budget today? Deficit is rising to $1.6 trillion annually. Annually. And what's happening? You got 2 million government workers. 200,000 more will be hired by 2018. 19% of them earn more than $100,000. You probably heard about those earning several $100,000 that got 12, 18% increase in their salary just this year. I mean, we've got insanity. We've got the fastest growing one is the IRS, 20% increase by 2018. Yeah, you're friends, right? This is insane. And basically, with this overspend, we got to cut it. The government keeps wasting money. You know, the stimulus, the shovel-ready projects, right? $787 billion to save or create jobs. Now, that may have created a little temporary bump here, but what it did, it destroyed capital. It destroyed the small business from being able to expand. It sucked money out of them into the government to increase the bureaucracy and increase government spending. And if you use President Obama's figures of how many jobs were saved or created, which I personally don't believe, but if I use his figures, $278,000 it costs per job. That is such a horrifying waste. Horrifying waste. And this third thing is we got to control the bureaucratic waste, fraud, and abuse. The Government Accountability Office just came out that $125 billion in improper payments. That's mind-boggling. That's people getting government checks that shouldn't have gotten it. This is the nature of bureaucracy and government. And this is why centralized government in Washington is the most unaccountable, wasteful thing you can imagine. That's why people talk about having government at the state level, government at the county level, and government at the local level, where there's more accountability. And then $200 billion of wasteful, overlapping bureaucracies. What is that? Well, what they found is that, you know, you pass this bill, and then you pass this bill, and you pass this bill, and pass this bill, and each of these bills have the same function. And the bureaucracies kept being bigger and growing, and they're doing the same thing. So, for example, they had 80 transportation programs that were doing the same thing. They had 56 more for financial literacy, doing the same thing. 44 federal job training efforts, doing the same thing. That is killing our economy and adding to this debt. And what about the outrageous crazy ways they spend our money.